Now let's move into environmental issues from globalisation. And we had quite a few good questions out of this. Again, Monkeys Ate My Ego. He's come up with some great questions, I must say. This one got 252 points, so it's got to be one of the most popular questions. So he says, globalisation seems to offer richer nations the opportunity to move difficult issues offshore, such as heavily polluting industries. How can we ensure responsibility is shared equitably?
Bit of truth to that, particularly with climate change legislation, where you say we have high standards in our coal, but we'll export the coal to countries with poor standards, and therefore we look good and we've lowered our emissions. Or a country like Australia, Australia, which says we won't have any nuclear power stations, but we will send the uranium to countries which may have lower standards and less scrutiny. The answer to that is having international regimes that people live up to. But here's the thing. Most trade is between rich countries. It's not between poor countries, despite what people think. And so there's Europeans, Canadians and Americans trading with each other. And here's another thing. The Kuznick curve famously shows in economics that once people get to a certain income level, all sorts of things begin to happen. Family sizes go down. Women are liberated. They want more democracy. They want cleaner air. They want more money in education. And so the pathway to development for, say, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Botswana, Mauritius, those countries are doing well. As the incomes move, so in my case, as you increase wealth, you increase the other goods as well. Women are liberated, not so many kids, a proper welfare state and pension system, so somebody doesn't have to have 10 kids to look after them because they fear for the future, proper savings. And this is modern society. And so population levels go down, kids get educated, they want clean air, ping, ping, ping. It's a virtuous circle. And this is, in the main, to be historically factual in evidence. So that's, you know...
So as these things progress in us...
Feel free to have me on if you think
that's right. But are you saying that the answer to that is that as these nations progress and develop, the people themselves are going to start...
In the main, that's the story of history. And of course, to respond, you need democratic adjustments. And that's the story of history. And democracy is more than a vote, just, you know, the biggest tribe winning. It is separation of church and state. It is independent courts. It is the right to call the Prime Minister an idiot. In fact, it's your duty. And it is the right to organise collectively and set up your pressure groups and poke fun at the politicians and the bureaucrats and the World Trade Organisation. That's your duty. Some will argue with me on this. They say, oh, we should have a world minimum wage or something. Well, it ain't going to happen. You know, maybe a good idea, but Esperanto was a good idea too. Pity it didn't catch on. Countries will adjust their own way through this. But take China. Its wages around the coast now are higher than Indonesia, Philippines, and jobs are migrating from the coast of China inland to cheaper product, better wages, which is a good thing, I suspect, isn't it? But many of them are moving to Vietnam and Africa because China is becoming a higher wage society. Who would have thought? Japan, there's a high wage society. When I was a child, people said we can't take all the stuff from Japan, it's too cheap or it's slave labour. Well, they've moved up. South Korea in the last 20 years. You know, I'm not saying this is perfect, it's rough, it's not even. But I think evidentially we can show that this is, in the main, is normally true. And so it takes South Africa, which is, you know, pumped ahead since its liberation. Now it's a magnet, so everyone from Africa is going down there and causing huge problems.
This is the process that you're talking about, isn't it?
But this is a good process. The way to solve the migration, you know, the million or so people from Zimbabwe who go to South Africa is to fix things that are happening in Zimbabwe, I would have thought. And of course politicians are trying to do this in a clumsy way, you know, you do your best.
Back to the environment.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody else.
I take a major environmental issue if I can. This in the Doha around fishing.
Go for it, please.
We can overfish out. With 350% capacity to overfish, we can kill everything. If you pulled out the billions of dollars of subsidies for the Chinese and Europeans and others, subsidise the diesel for their vessels to go in the coast and just vacuum up the fish, that would make things more efficient and work for local fisher people, right? And then we have the law of the sea. Then you put property rights into the water and you have sustainable fisheries. We've done a very good job in New Zealand on this. Sustainable fishing, blah, blah. But the biggest impediment is the billions and billions of dollars that are paid, and the corruption, where someone will go in and say, here's 50 mil, I want to fish, pop it into a Swiss bank, pay off the pollies, and pay off the bureaucrats. This, what do? It's terrible. I've been actually involved in some projects in fisheries, and you set up a thing where the local people come in, build up the training, let them own it, transfer it after a few years, and some of the politicians were not interested. They'd rather have the cash up front, so somebody can just give me the money, put it in Switzerland, and vacuum it out. So it's corruption, it's subsidies, that mean countries, and a subsidy really is a competition between which country has the most taxpayers to pay the most to put the other bloke out of business. You know, just awful. But that is in the system in the Doha development round. This would be a huge environmental issue. And you can look at forestry in a similar way.
Okay, so that comes down to something that a lot of people were asking about, which was the right of a foreign nation to come in and take the resources of a country economically and through trade.
Well, every country is sovereign, and they can make their own rules. What the WTO has always tried, and we don't have an investment. We're silent on investment. We shouldn't be. Had we had international rules on investment and engagement, some of us were pushing 20 years ago, and people in Seattle thought it was appalling. This may have helped not have the kind of crash we've had, by the way, but that's another issue.
Okay.
Probably not, actually, because there's some idiots out there, but it would have made it a little bit more transparent. Go back to remind me what the point was again.
Well, we're talking about environmental issues and
the rights of a company to come in. Well, one of the core issues and principles when the system was set up was I think called most favoured nation status. That is, we should treat everybody the same. So I will not treat you better because you're from Fiji and you less because you're from Papua New Guinea. That we have a transparent, predictable process, right?
Okay.
And that's sometimes collectively breached when you set up a European Union or you do closer economic relations between Australia and New Zealand. It's not a breach, it's sort of forgiven. So that you don't screw the scrum, pervert the system to allow some local crony capitalists to graze on it. That's one of it. And so that you don't have licenses. So, we'll only have this one bank from America, we'll only have this one bank from Japan. Have as many banks as you can in there. It is work in progress. Mind you, those countries that want foreign investment have always done better. No one's saying Yankee go home. Every minister has come to these conferences, oppose investment policies, then gone on an investment mission to New York and Zurich looking for money in Tokyo.